All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. As we're getting the slides pulled up, really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I want to start talking a little bit about San Diego Gas and Electric to put this into perspective. We're in the southwest corner of California, right? We're about the size of Connecticut. Overall, we have 3.6 million people who live within our service territory. And we have quite a history of catastrophic fire. So I'll bring it back initially right about this time of year, little bit later, late September 1970, the largest fire in California history started within the San Diego Gas and Electric service territory, burned about 186,000 acres, was actually the initiating event for what we now know as the incident command structure, the incident command system within FEMA. It was a while before we had another mega fire in San Diego. It was 2003. There was a lost hunter who was walking in the backcountry. They set a signal fire to try to kind of get help to them. Santa Ana winds developed on that fire before they had a chance to put it out. It grew over 30 miles pushing towards our coast overnight, sadly to say. Sure, no problem. Sadly to say, by morning, there were 13 fatalities. This became 286,000 acres. And that ended up taking over as the largest fire in California history in San Diego. Everybody said this is a 1 in 100-year event. We will never see anything like this again. And then what ended up happening was, it was just 4 years later, there was the Wildfire. That was part of the 2007 wildfire outbreak in Southern California. There were a total of 23 fires burning in Southern California that year. 3 of them were tied to the San Diego Gas and Electric infrastructure. There were 2 fatalities in that fire. And we came back because it's California law, and I am going to talk a little bit more about regulation here. We ended up about $2.4 billion in liability associated with the 2007 wildfires. And that was in 2007 dollars. There's some stories actually published in Hawaii News yesterday about liability caps that they're trying to cap with PICO. So this is something that was the first of what now is still happening moving forward. And last year, FEMA issued their national risk index and still said San Diego County is the #1 wildfire risk in all of the United States, right? So that said, we have an extremely robust fire mitigation program. I'll start by saying I'm super proud in our program that we are now in our 17th year without a large wildfire coming from our infrastructure. Thank you. We'll see if the clicker works here. Clicker, or we're gonna, let me push forward one slide there. But what we have is we built a robust resilience to wildfire. We talked about resilience and it was foundational, but ultimately when we start by looking at some of the first steps, it was understanding the weather, right? Was very fortunate to have work of people like John Torres in the room, Tim Brown, to give us the foundation that we needed in San Diego to start sharing the data. The databases were there, the modeling that was being done at DRI, the high resolution modeling, we were able to leverage a lot of that in our wildfire resilience. And we really looked foundationally. I'm going to move through resilience quickly, and it ties into some of the themes of what we heard earlier, but situational awareness and forecasting, that ability to anticipate and prepare, completely foundational, right? New products, leveraging all of this data that's being collected is extremely important. And then we need a microphone. Yeah. Thank you. Understood. But then also when we look at hardening the infrastructure, right, that is a very key component to this as well, how we enhance our operations. And then as we heard, I heard a comment about how we interact with the community and that community resilience and the role we play there. That is very important as well. As we fast forward to today, and kind of where we are. So much of our resilience is continuing to enhance that science, but it's also how do we mitigate the impact that is being felt by our communities, right? Overall, when we implement programs such as public safety power shutoff, whether we're looking at microgrids, generator programs, community resource centers, that's a key component, while also trying to advance the science moving forward. Wanted to touch briefly on the regulation that we have seen in California, because this is something that I think will be spreading across states and potentially federally as well. What we have seen since the wildfires really expanded in 2017 and 2018 to be kind of an entire state issue, there's new regulation to develop wildfire mitigation plans. Ours is close to 1,000 pages long, right? So quite a bit of reading for somebody, but it is a deep dive on kind of full wildfire mitigation. There's also very heavy regulation in California on how we de-energize and implement public safety power shutoff. We were running this program over a decade ago with no rules. We were just kind of doing what felt right. Now there's over 500 rules by the state of California and exactly how we have to implement public safety power shutoff, how we report it, and then coming back in agencies like the Office of Energy Infrastructure Safety that keep a close eye on how we do this. The last thing I'll mention, which is important, is Senate Bill 1054 in the state of California actually created a wildfire fund where if we implement wildfire mitigation plans, if we operate prudently, if we meet a series of requirements, then if we do have a catastrophic wildfire, we have means to protect us from bankruptcy. In California, this is an important component to overall resiliency moving forward and something we can discuss more. This is not just wildfire, this is all hazards. We've been talking about smoke, we've been talking about extreme heat already, extreme precipitation. We had a hyper-local precipitation event in San Diego this year on January 22nd. It's going to be one of those memories one of those days that stays in my mind as a San Diego operator. Areas of Metro San Diego received almost 4 inches of rain in 2 hours. They called it a 1 in 1,000 year event. It's over 6 months later, and many folks are not even back in their homes yet. It was one of those kind of catastrophic events, and the economic impact is staggering, right? If you look at some published papers by University College in London, in 2018 alone, over 100 billion in economic impact from wildfires, and we know this is growing and expanding. So proactive attention to this is critical. As we look forward, we need to advance our situational awareness, right? We had heat events in San Diego over the last week where there's still opportunity to leverage AI, leverage data to better anticipate and prepare for the loads that we're going to see. You mentioned this, there were a couple days where the load models weren't fully anticipating the full peak of the load. Our ability to anticipate this is a big area where I think it's an AI opportunity as well. Engineering and operations, we need to be risk informed, but we need to harden infrastructure to be resilient to not only the climate we're seeing today, but the climate we're seeing moving forward. Our long-term strategy cannot be when the weather gets really bad, we're going to turn off the electric grid in the backcountry, especially as we continue to move towards an electrified economy. It just doesn't add up. And we cannot do enough work with our community partners moving forward. The social science and that aspect of this problem needs to stay front and center. We have a strong culture around wildfire in San Diego and now around all extreme weather events in San Diego, and it is as strong as the safety culture itself that we have at the utility. But we will never stop trying to improve. We'll always be better, and never again will we be the ignition source of a catastrophic wildfire in San Diego. I do look forward to moving to the Q&A after this, but with that, I'll hand it back. Thank you.